We spent all afternoon yesterday preparing the sugar scoops at the back, or our hull extensions. I don't want to call them sugar scoops anymore because they don't look like sugar scoops anymore. Essentially, we have remasked and redone all of the core flute on the anti-slip, and if you have a look at it here, a close look, I've actually allowed about 2 millimeters of anti-slip on the edge. I've sanded that edge just so the gel coat will go up and meet it and cover up these little gaps here, and hopefully we'll end up with a true looking all white all the way across, including the anti-slip, but a little bubble of gel coat along the top here will make a really nice little edge, and we can polish that down as we go. So you ready to go, darling? Yeah, you ready? We're having a pre-spray up orange. It's always good to hydrate, Janet. We've become very accustomed to eating oranges, haven't we? We do like them, and we don't eat a lot of them, but we have one a day. So this all is now prepared. We're going to spray the starboard side first because we're still accessing in here. You can see here I've basically prepared the entire thing right up on top of the coaming. I'm not doing the outside yet. I've still got a little bit of fairing to do, but I want to get all this done because we've got some big rain event coming in a couple of days. I want to make sure that we get this done, so give it a chance to cure, and then I'm going to get rid of all these tarps, which is going to be nice to actually get rid of the tarps for a change. And we're basically almost ready to go. Janet's mixing up flow coat here. We've got about 5% wax and styrene mixed into white gel coat. We're just going to tip it into our HVLP gun, and I'm going to work slowly but quickly. Slowly but quickly.
Get really nervous at this point.
We get very nervous, and I get very manic. I generally go a bit ape for the hour or so beforehand, and then once I start, I'm all right. You've got to get into a groove when you're spraying, especially when you're outdoors and you've got wind and people, and I've tarped up the entire site so the overspray is not there.
Keep stuffing with my station.
Janet likes a very organised workstation, and I go, well, that's not going to work for me. That's not going to work for me. Let's just move out an inch and make sure that we get it in the right position.
I'll just do that, and then drives me nuts.
This is what it's like at home as well. I go into the kitchen and I get into trouble because I move things an inch and go, how come that's sitting there? Righto, so I've done the starboard side, which is looking pretty flash. It needs a bit of sanding. I've got a couple of big areas where we've gotten rid of pinholing and that, but it looks superb. I think that's probably more than enough flow coat on there, and we're going to hit the port side now. This area's got a couple of areas that are going to need attention later on, but we'll get it all painted, and then we'll be able to bring Janet in on the job, and she can spend a couple of years polishing it. Can't you, darling? I reckon. Righto, we're about to start spraying this guy here. And it's all ready, it's all cleaned. Ready to go. Boss is down there with the mixing station. You ready to go? Let's do it. With the second lot of flow coating finished, the detailed sanding now to get the entire section to a perfect fair is a long process. A number of tools required, including torture boards, sanding block, dual action pneumatic sander, taking care that the edges of the features are maintained, as it is easy to lose the shape of an edge when sanding with power tools. I also like to use my fingertips regularly to feel for any defects along with a straight edge to ensure true form. Although tedious, it is quite rewarding and oddly satisfying feeling the shape of the boat taking place under your fingertips. wild, wet and windy day here on the hulls, and I'm up here just staying inside. Yesterday or the day before yesterday in fact, we sprayed the final layer of gel coat on our hull extensions. You can see how good they're looking. They're really looking flash. The blue tape is obviously what's on the anti-slip, and the whole thing now just looks like it actually was meant to be. If you have a look over here, I've gotten rid of the tarp on top of it. I don't want to have that on there anymore. I'm better off just to let the wet gel coat get wet, and ultimately we can come in and give it a good polish with some wet and dry sandpaper and then buff it up. I still have to do the top of our settee at the rear here. Got a bit of work to do because I've got the supports going in here for the stainless supports for the hard top. But yeah, it's so nice to see the whole thing starting to become one. And it looks pretty smick, I reckon, and once it's all buffed up, you're not even going to know that it was ever a separate part of the boat. So there's the other side. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Today I've got a bit of a job ahead. You'll notice inside here I've completed the fairing of the saloon roof. Now that's very, very important because that means I can get in and paint that. I've got a lot to do before I can get in and line that with my Raptor coating that I have on the hardtop here. We're that impressed with this 2-pack urethane stuff that we're going to use it on the inside of that. It has a really nice little texture. It's not too aggressive. It's not like you'd have on a ute liner, but certainly it is very, very good, and it hides a couple of little fairing issues that I have in there. I'm not going to spend a hell of a lot of time fairing. But so today, before I can complete the paint job on the ceiling in the saloon here, I need to integrate this back of our helm station. This back wall here has been a concept I've had for some time. If you have a look at it here, it's basically the whole back section of our helm station. I've got to make sure I've got good access in there, and you see these black lines on here, that's my telly. I want to be able to at least sit back and watch a bloody movie and relax at some point, because I don't watch much TV, but I intend to when I get this bloody thing finished, because when I go home at night I'm generally editing or filing or studying or some bloody thing. But anyway, at the end of the day, that black line, the center, and those two things is where the TV is going to sit. I need to consider something even more important than the TV. I need access to the back of the MFD here. So my 12-inch Garmin plotter is going to sit there. I need access to the back of it, where I can get access to all the NMEA cables, the power cables, and obviously the Ethernet and all of that sort of stuff as well. And similarly down here, down the bottom here, I'm going to have access to that for the steering. So down here there's going to be a hatch, and there will be another hatch up here, and why I need access down there is to get to that steering cylinder there. That cylinder needs to be able to be removed that way, and if I have it there, I'm not going to be able to get my arm in through here. Oh, there'll be another hatch in a panel here, but get my arm in there and lift that out. That weighs about 6 kilos, that thing. There's no way I'm going to be able to lift that out with one arm, so I've decided to make another hatch in the bottom of this wall here, which will give me access to all of the steering lines, the hydraulic lines, the balance lines, and the autopilot lines. Very, very important that I do that. So that's where that's coming out. I've also got up there is the power winch, and the power winch has to be lifted out through here. So I'm going to need another hatch in here, and I've discussed this before. So if I put a hole in there, I'll be able to lift the power winch module in, stick it in place, be able to tighten it up, get access to it. Very, very important to the wiring, and that belongs to that as well. And now, most importantly, a lot of people have expressed concern about the strength of this area here where the winches are sitting. Essentially, that area there is boxed in. That is totally laminated across just underneath there, down to there. So we've got one box there, we've got another box here, which is laminated to the back wall. The back of the actual helm station is also laminated to the deck. And if you look inside, right up inside there, it'll also be laminated to this wall. So once this wall's in place, it'll be laminated to this wall, and that's why I need the hatch there, so I can get in there and do the laminating. So there's tons of strength there. There's going to be zero flex in that area there. I've also made the critical decision to house all of my jammers here on the roof of the cabin and not on the winch plinth, because if it was on the winch plinth, then you'd have the load of the clutches as well as the winches it just could be a bit too much. By putting it here, I'm actually attaching it to, this is glass to this is glass to the cabin roof. This will be reinforced underneath with epoxy 16mm substrate that I have, and that will actually create base for my winches and my clutches. Now basically the lines are going to come across from the mast here and then across to the clutches and down to the winches. I firmly believe I've thought this through enough, and I know enough about structure, given that is now about 1 inch thick of solid glass with G10 on the base of these winches as well, to sustain the loads that I'm going to be putting on it with the sail and the and obviously all the halyards and lines and reefing lines we're going to have coming back down to our 2 big winches here. I think it's just time to put this wall in, and once this wall's in, I can start to think about getting my saloon roof painted. I'm pretty excited about that next week. I'm going to take this down to the bottom of the boat and get my track saw out, cut some hatches, basically essentially to just start to work my way into getting these accesses in, and then this afternoon I'm going to glue this place in. Certainly looks very different without it. It's an absolute mess, but the nice thing is it's all already flow coated. All I really need to do is because I've left all those margins up there ready for laminating, I've got an area where I can get in and really do some good laminating, get it all structurally adhered together, and then I'll be able to get finishing on the roof of the saloon. Alright, just to prove my point, really good access to the back of the MFD here. That's going to give me ample access to all the connections I need to make. This back wall here is more likely to have NMEA backbone connectors on it. I have a bank of 3 lots of 4. I think I could put 4 there, 4 on the other side, and run everything down. One thing I've been told by a boat repair place is to always make sure your NMEA connections come straight out of the connection. They don't immediately bend, because it can actually create problems with the connecting pins. So I intend to bring them up and then secure them before I make any bends to the device or down into the backbone. But yeah, another great solution I've got here is this access hatch to my power winch. The motor essentially sits on this angle here. This is the most important one, because that is a big unit and it weighs about 8 kilos just on its own. So I need to be able to lift it in and out and access. Now I've got the choice of firstly swinging it out on one hinge there out to the window edge, which will be about there, so that's not great. I'm just wondering whether I could hinge it. I can't hinge it up, but I could indeed hinge it down. And if I did that, that's perfect. Essentially, that gives me plenty of access inside that hatch. One of the things that slowed me down putting this wall in has been knowing that I need that access. I think we've been looking at this thing long enough, and it's time for it to go in, because it's going to give me the opportunity to do this whole cabin can get done, and it's all hinged on this one piece. All this mess up in here that I've had where I've cut in the helm station, but I have to be very careful how I slide this in so I don't smear my glue too much, and it only just fits. I'm going to put a little composite angle cleat in place just to hold it until all that glue sets, and then I can come back and backfill. Righto, that is now in, and if I can make that look anywhere near as good as that looks, I'll be winning. And it's not going to be that hard, because I can basically veneer this with Laminex or with white gel coat. My issue was that I needed to get this part all tidied up here, because we're going to have our Raptor coating pretty much all the way to that edge there, all the way around here, and all the way forward down to where the dinette module meets, and I've got a lot of tidying up to do there. I've still got a gel coat around where the dinette module and the deck meet, and then I'm going to wrap it down to the edge of that. So there's plenty to do, but that's brilliant to have that in place. I'm going to have to get in there and just fill that back section there in behind that hatch, the access hatch. It's still got a little bit of a gap, but I'll let that sit for a day, come back tomorrow, better move on to something else. We're going to check out what the boss is doing. I'm working on the nacelles down on the underneath the bridge deck there. I'm not really sure what's going on down here. Oh, Janet's actually laminating the shelf I put in yesterday, so she's just tidying it up a bit. How's that? Oh, it's dusty. Wow. I better not come in there. That's pure Q cells and cavity, so I don't want to breathe that in. Cool. Well, that's great. How's it going?
Slowly.
Yeah, good. It's a little bit of a clean up, but yeah, just any little dags, just get rid of them. You'll be doing a great job.
The masking tape under the glue.
Yeah. I probably should have used the grey stuff. That's it. Cool. Good down. Oh, it's nice and cosy in here. It's freezing outside. And while I'm at it, what I've done over here is our bed head for the master cabin. And again, I apologise how dark it is in here, but I haven't been working in these rooms at all. And I just found a piece of foam that I actually made for this. That's now the master suite bed head. It's a queen size bed head. It's basically going to look like this in the picture. And I just need to glue that in place with epoxy. So I'm going to do the shelf on the port side, as well as this one here. Now you will notice that behind there, I have the wiring for the windlass. I need to be able to remove the top of this to get in behind there. There's a little bit of storage there, which we can use as we go forward. Maybe just stick some of the bloody cushions that Jan's going to have in here, because she loves the cushions. She's not big on millions of cushions, but no, I don't know guys, if you're anything like me, more than 2 cushions is too many. Essentially, oh, you get in trouble for saying that, but behind there is the windlass wiring. I need full unabated access to that, and that's basically what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a removable top on there that can lift off, and that'll potentially be in the Tasmanian oak that I've got. Righto, well that's now in place. I've deliberated putting that in because we're going to have a bit of an unusual mattress shape. I think a lot of these boats do, just obviously to economise on space, but this area here is actually an island access up these stairs. So we've got stair access to this side of the bed, as well as stair access to this. So essentially it's an island, even though you've still got to climb upstairs, but you know, that seems a bit away with these bridge deck type cabins that we have here. Unlike down the back there where you can sort of crawl over the top of each other sideways, it's really nice to be able to climb into bed without having to climb over somebody. And on this bed, luckily we can do that. Everyone else is just going to have to climb over each other. But you know, it's our bedroom. I don't really care what anyone thinks about anywhere else. If we hear them grunting and groaning at night, we know that's what it's for.